you do give advice to guys who, not just about sex, about dating, relationships, all that. But first of all, I want to hear, what do guys most often ask you for help with? Like, what component of that?
It depends how old they are.
Okay.
So with younger guys, I get a lot of dudes who have trouble with performance anxiety or erectile dysfunction. I mean, it's primarily performance anxiety.
Is that related to pornography?
Very much so, yeah.
Okay.
So so in that regard, you have this epidemic of younger guys who are habitual porn users, and that completely screws up their dopamine receptors and their way they associate like novelty and pleasure.
Yeah.
And so they're not able to get excited around a woman anymore, or as excited as they should to do the deed.
Is it weird for you to give advice on that, given your past being an adult film star, a former adult film star?
No.
You don't feel there's a conflict there at all
Not
for
at
you
all.
to say, okay.
No, I feel there's no, I don't see a people ask me this all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that. The way I look at it is like, okay, some people can consume this product and it doesn't screw them over. The same way some people can drink alcohol and they have no problem. But other guy over here, you give him a bottle and he's under the bridge. He has a problem with alcohol.
Right.
So he should probably go to AA. He should probably quit that stuff, right? Because it's screwing up his life.
Okay.
Look at the consequences. Look at the ramifications of this habit. Is it, with porn example, right? Are you not hitting the gym as much because you're jerking off all the time? Are you having terrible sleep? Are your T levels plummeting? Are your relationships with women shitty? Is your sex life screwed up? Like if a guy comes to me and he says he has any problems in the bedroom, the first thing I tell him to do is stop watching porn. Do that to start with, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay.
That might be all you need to do. If not, we move on, we find other solutions, right? With older guys, what I find is it's actually like the number one problem they come to me with is lasting longer. With older dudes, because older dudes didn't grow up with pornography. Older dudes didn't grow up with an iPhone or a smartphone or whatever, or Pornhub and X videos and stuff all over their phone. So they ain't got that problem. Their problem is they never learnt to control their body and understand, the relationship, like having a balanced pelvic floor, or understanding how to control themselves, or understanding like the point of no return. And
I've never heard a man talk about a guy's pelvic floor. That's so important. They talk about it with women all the time because we have babies and then we go to PT for it and all that stuff. But I've never heard that. That's so important to talk about a guy's pelvic floor. That's fascinating to me that you address that.
The main reason that guys can't last as long as they want to is because they have an imbalance in their pelvic floor.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Because when a dude ejaculates, it's a contraction of the muscles down there. So their muscles are typically, if a guy can't last very long, his muscles are too tight down there, or at least one half of them are. So he needs to balance that out, and then he can last a long time.
What do you say to guys who just can't get laid? Like they want to have sex. It's not happening for them. There's so many sexless men, and that's just not healthy. What's the advice to what are they doing wrong?
They're doing a lot of stuff wrong. I mean, they need to get their sigils in order, like we might say in the war room. They need to get their health sorted out, get their finances sorted, and miraculously, if you start making more money, you start hitting the gym looking good, you might start feeling a bit more confident. You might start walking around with a bit more swag and a bit more self-esteem. Okay, that is contagious. Women can smell that on a man, right? It's undeniable. You can't fake that. Okay, so you're a bit depressed, not getting laid. All right. First thing first, hit the gym, start feeling better about yourself. All right, now let's figure out how you can start making some more money so you can start living a bit more of a freer life than you previously were. You can start improving your own self-esteem and self-worth. Okay, now let's start working on like your general social skills. Like, are you a loner? Are you just hanging out by yourself all the time? Do you have a band of brothers who keep you accountable, who make you be social, who you can talk about your worries and your ideas and your worldviews with? Just generally learn to be a more social human being. Being a social person is a skill. And I said this about sex. Sex is a skill, just like anything else. These are all learnable skills. No one is like born amazing in bed, right? It's a skill set they developed through experience. And the same with social skills. You've got to develop that through experience. There's a reason this man is incredibly charming. It's because since he's been a little kid, he's been the guy smooth talking all the ladies. Like, that's why you're incredibly charming.
Is that true, Justin? Is that true?
I was pretty good at a young age, yeah.
So you never had a period, because what was really funny? I was going to bring it. Last time you and I sat down together, you were giving tips to guys about whatnot. I remember I got a message, and one guy was like, "Oh, sure." But Justin looks like Justin, and I'm not going to be able to pull that off.
I hate that excuse. I hate when guys use that as an excuse. Because I know, I have in my entire life, you cannot take this experience away away from it. I've met so many dudes who are either it's a great example. I knew this guy back in Perth. I'm from west coast of Australia, right? Brazilian dude, face riddled with acne scars. I wasn't even aware that he had acne scars for the first couple of weeks of me knowing this guy because he was so charming. You will see past somebody's physical appearance if they are charming enough, if they have those social skills down. And again, I know so many dudes who are fat, short, ugly, who crush it with ladies because they are ridiculously charming, and they've also worked on these other parts that we talk about. They're physically capable. They know how to fight. So because they know how to fight, they walk into a room with presence. They command that presence from somebody else, right? Or they've got their finances together so they can provide for a family and whoever comes into their life. They have these other pillars of their life they've got sorted out, so they're not. And I also know guys who are ridiculously good looking and super tall who have every other aspect of their life is in the gutter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they spent their whole childhood relying on that one thing, and it got them so far. It got them through, say, high school when they were like the top guy or whatever. They leave high school and everything comes collapsing around them because they didn't work on anything else.
I'll also say the scars for a guy, like you talk about acne scars, or I remember like a guy when I was in college had like scars. Sometimes that stuff could be like attractive in a man. It's not necessary. Guys can see that as an obstacle, but it's different for men and women again. But I think sometimes a guy who's been through it, you know, one of the advantages I think you in particular had when somebody said, "Oh, sure, Justin," and I was like, "This guy's been through it." We talked about your past. We talked about you did not have an easy upbringing. Yep. So I think some of what women see in men, I always say like sturdiness, like the fact that you've been through struggle, you've overcome that struggle, the fact that you went through struggle and you came out on the other side and you are financially secure and you are someone who, you know, is a gentleman and all of that stuff. That's much more powerful than, you know, just the visual. Of course, you know, you're going to want a guy going to want to be attracted to them and hot for them. But part of what makes you hot for them is that confidence that I can overcome, because that makes women feel safe. And women really want to feel safe.
Let me give you a quick hypothetical scenario. Say, let's say a guy like Justin, you were about to go on a date with a guy and you've only seen him online, where he's tall and he's handsome. I know that about him, right? Yeah. And then you get to the date and he is completely nothing like you would expect, right? He has no social skills whatsoever. He's super nervous. He's insecure, right? As a woman, I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, you would feel kind of in danger, like almost betrayed, and like, this guy is not safe to be around. That's right. Because I had an expectation, and that expectation was not met. I expected him to be this super confident, charming, charismatic guy, and he ain't. Right. And women, I've never seen women react worse to men in general than in that scenario, when it's actually a good-looking dude and he is not charming. Women will reject that guy and get a way more visceral betrayal feeling over them than if they just meet a regular-looking dude who's not very charming.
Yeah. I agree. It's because they feel deceit. I always say that the gap, the formula for happiness is the gap between expectation and reality. And so when you're expecting him to act in the way that he looks and he doesn't, the woman feels betrayal and deceit from it, like he tricked her. And she was wanting this thing based off of how he was projecting himself. And when he does not give that to her, that's when she gets angry. So I completely agree with that.
The other thing is, a woman, what's scary to women, you know, oftentimes we talk about stoicism in a man. I had this conversation also, this debate with Hunter Avallone the other day, where he was saying, oh, you know, men shouldn't hold in their emotions and men should cry and all that. We got into a whole big discussion about that. But it's one thing, you know, a guy loses a family member and, you know, you want a human being next to you. You don't want a robot, I will say, as a female. But if a guy doesn't have control over his emotions, that's very scary, because those are the guys that really fly off the handle. Those are the guys that develop severe anxiety. Those are the guys that get depressed easily. Like, those are the guys that are just an emotional roller coaster. And as women, sometimes, just based on hormones, we can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I don't need an emotional roller coaster next to me. I need a guy who's together, so that if I have a day where I need a cry, number one, I need a man who understands that I am a female and I need to cry and I want a big old bear hug and it's going to just be okay. I need someone who's going to make me feel okay about that. And number two, I want a man who's not crying with me. You can't be crying with me. I need you to be figuring out how to make it better and get the plan. So it's scary for women to see a man lose it, because that means you can lose it in capacities that could be dangerous to us, and we feel unsafe.
Yep.
If you like the short clip and want to watch another short clip, click here. Or if you want to watch the full episode, click right here.